Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Learn Languages HD audio podcast. We love to have you with us. Make sure to learn something new today and expand your horizons for a little bit. December, January, and February are known to the students' population worldwide as months that are in red for stress zone. That's where most of the countries worldwide and for university students and for high school students perform final examination. That's why we wanted to dedicate this episode to all of you who have or who had already had trouble with the stress and dealing with the stress of the examination season. Also, it was a good chance for us to talk about the balance between studying and working, or between your personal life and your working life, your business life. So all of us tend to fall in that trap of sometimes giving too much on one end and completely forgetting about the other things and responsibilities that we have, or we just find it so overwhelming to be on all of those places in the same time being. And that's something that we can't do much about. Basically, in our lives, we have to encounter multiple roles. So we are both parents and business people, or we're both students and we are supposed to work, or we all have different responsibilities, and balancing those out in the same time can get quite stressful at times. And that's why we thought that this could be a right moment to introduce that topic, give you some advice on how to help yourself in those situations. It seems like a good start of the year to acquire that new skill of dealing with stress that new responsibilities and new events bring in our lives. First of all, when we focus on student population, many times people ask themselves, why do I need this? Like, why shouldn't I or why couldn't I just sit in my room with a book, complete my studying responsibilities, and that's all? In many countries, however, that's still a problem, that those kinds of extracurricular activities or self-improvement on the other levels that are not strictly connected or tied to school are not appreciated enough at the moment. But a positive example of the systems that incorporated these activities into their curriculums or into the general acceptance, generally socially approved, those kinds of activities and involvement systems that stimulate that kind of response, we could say that the United States is quite good there. Why United States? For example, if you want to apply to the university in the United States, you have to, aside from your grades and school transcripts and everything else you do in school, like how you behave and etc., you have to present what else you did, how else you stand out, and what makes you different. So basically, you could show your hobbies, you could show your other responsibilities, tasks, anything that involves you in any community, anything that makes you more well-rounded person and personality. You could also ask at this point, why are the schools interested in that kind of information? Why do I need that? Well, we could simply answer that. So all the things that you do outside of your studies, no matter what degree you are on, so whether you're a college student or high school student or even elementary school student, everything you do outside of your studies contributes to your overall experience. It enriches you as a person and also makes you better for the other tasks. For example, it will make your critical thinking better, or all those activities would sharpen your other skills, which would certainly contribute to your professional development and to your academic achievements. Another thing important to mention is that not even schools expect you to study 24/7. Although your studying is treated like a full-time responsibility, still they calculate your involvement hours per week to around 30 to 35 hours, which basically leaves a lot of space for other things to be incorporated too. So if you commit yourself to well-defined study times, you would have a lot of time left to enjoy a range of different activities of your choice. I already said that activities that you complete outside of your first responsibilities in life, let's define it that way, really make you grow better as a person, not just professionally, but also when it comes to your general virtues and to you as a person. They make you a better human being. They also make you feel happier. So, for example, if you work 9 to 5 or even longer than that, in many countries it's quite common for people to work way above 9 to 5 daily. Having some hobby, having some sort of occupation to vent out the stress and to clear your mind, having some space to let you breathe would definitely stimulate you, make you more productive, make you more engaged, and generally make you happier. And when you're happier, you're better for everyone around yourself and for any sort of work that you're involved in. For students, one of the motivations, I already mentioned the example of the United States, one of the motivations to participate in your community or generally to engage in a lot of different things could be professional development. For example, if you're aiming to achieve some high scores, if you're aiming for certain scholarships, certain medals, certain championships, competitions, whatever it is, to have some sort of formal recognition of your success, that's one of the very good motivators for the start. But it definitely shouldn't be the only one, because everything you do in your life defines who you are going to be. Every opportunity you take enriches you in numerous ways. And since we already met, I find it appropriate to give some examples from my personal life. When I was elementary school student and also high school student, I was very active. Although it is not so common in my community, we're not stimulated to engage anything other than school formally. So for example, if you submit to the university, if you apply, no one has any chance of looking at you as a person, like what you do, what are your hobbies, what were you involved in. All that matters are your grades. And yeah, it is what it is. We can change that at the moment. But still, recently, schools, when I say recently, I really mean a couple, maybe like last decade or maybe last 5 years, schools slowly started to encourage these kinds of activities to students, especially to gifted students. Schools started to encourage their students to involve and to participate. Because from that educational point of view, it's very beneficial to the person and to your overall personal, emotional development. Also, social development counts. So over the range of my whole studies, I was involved in different set of activities. So I was always in a choir. I was always a performer. I was always a dancer. I used to write. I used to volunteer. And it wasn't before I joined certain clubs, I didn't realize how much actually I loved volunteering. Like I would never think of it in a younger age. And what I found there is not only that I felt very satisfied while doing it, that I felt happy. It's that I made so many connections. I made so many friends that are not from my high school, that are not from my class, that are not from my neighborhood. I got to meet a lot of different people. I got to meet people from all over the globe. Also, I got to learn a lot of skills. As a volunteer in an NGO, I learned how to run projects. I learned how to create content, visual content. Like it was the first time to be presented with a certain software for producing different visual content. And I loved it. And later on in my career, even though it wasn't so long ago, I had many chances to use those skills and to use that program, and I got to use it better with time. But it wasn't before I was given the responsibility. So my mentors in the organization found it appropriate to give to me as a 16-year-old at the time to completely create by myself all of the materials for a campaign. So that organization deals with public health. So every December, when we celebrate the International Day of Fight Against HIV, they create something special to the community. And that year, they gave me the chance to translate certain messages and to create visuals for their posters, for their billboards, and for their social media. For me, it was a huge thing, a huge responsibility, but it taught me a few things. Not to mention that some of my first experiences teaching English were actually as a volunteer in American Corner in my country. There, I got those first moments when I was standing in front of a class. It was an extracurricular activity for students. So for the low-income families who cannot afford certain paid recreational activities or extra educational activities to their kids, they could bring them to the American Corner, where us volunteers would be teaching them for free. I got to meet some great children. I got to inspire them, and I got to share what I know with them. And it was not only rewarding, but it also taught me a handful of skills, professional as well as social. In my grade 3 of high school, I got an opportunity to apply for a scholarship to the Yale University summer program in the United States, and I got to hear about it from my advisor in the American Corner where I was volunteer at the time. I applied, and one of the things that I still believe that got me there and that earned me that scholarship, aside from my grades, was the fact that I was actually a very active volunteer and that I was a very active participator in their community. So the admissions team believed that if I could come there, if I could meet new people, learn some new things, I could happily share it with my community and spread it as widely as possible, which was actually the truth. Not only that I was able to meet top professors at that university or to see some extraordinary facilities and enjoy the spirit of the campus and of the local students. And it wasn't only that I got to learn so much about science, which is basically my major and my first passion, I also got to meet people from everywhere around the world. In that period, my roommate was from Africa, from Senegal, and I'm all the way in Europe, and that's where I made one of the lifetime friendships. It was just one of the benefits that I got from engaging in my community and into different activities. I also got to learn responsibility, taking risks, organizing time, and I also got to learn courage and independence at a very young age, and I believe that it really helped my career and it helped me get where I am at the moment, and I hope that if I keep going that way, it's gonna also help me fly higher. At the moment, I'm a student and I'm also working as a freelancer, and I believe that I'm already making a lot of use of skills that I acquired previously and that I mentioned. And that's why I thought that my personal story would be interesting and stimulating to you to see that everything can be somehow balanced out if we try and if we keep learning, growing, and keep fighting and trying. So in today's lesson, we prepared some of the general advice that could help you deal with stressful situations and help you manage your time better so that you can enjoy all the perks that active involvement in life can bring you. And a small explanation, a small note that I haven't mentioned before, but I find it to be very important. It doesn't have to be involving in activity. It doesn't have to be that you do something somewhere and something incredible. It can be something that you do just for yourself. So if you like reading, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to say, okay, now I'm working, now I'm studying, now I have exams, I don't have time for that. Or if you're really passionate about sports, you can happily incorporate that in your schedule and enjoy growing on both of the sides of your life. Also, it could be social life. Like many students have that trouble if they are very successful educationally. They've found it hard to maintain active social life, which also doesn't have to be the fact. So here are our tips and general advice if you find yourself in that situation or if you know someone who can benefit from this idea. First advice would be to create clear boundaries. That's something that many people complained about when it came to whole COVID situation and lockdowns, that when working from home, they find it really hard to set a boundary between their private time and between their working time. So in this case, we can also understand it the same way, so that you need to make a time, like time slots, time boundary between everything you want to incorporate in your daily routines. But also create clear boundaries, for me, signifies that you should think about what makes you happy, what you enjoy, what is that really is your passion, and what is that you really want to commit for. And it leads to the fact that you should create clear boundaries in time, but you should also create and set specific goals for yourself or specific intentions. They don't have to be something measurable. For example, I would read 20 pages a day, or I would go for a marathon, or my goal is to get a promotion. Doesn't have to be like that. It can be just your own personal intention, but it has to be clear. You have to know what is that you want to really commit to. Second piece of advice would be to take control. Especially in these stressful situations, we feel like we're out of control of our time, of our life, that we're just like puppets on the strings, and definitely someone else is pulling the strings. That's not the truth. That's something that I have to tell you. So you should organize yourself and don't let activities overwhelm you. When I say organize, it doesn't really mean only to organize your time. It means to organize your life, whatever that signifies for you. For me, it was to organize my storage space, to organize my closet, to organize my digital files, to kind of create certain tidiness all around me. And that will help me also be more clear in my mind, and help me organize my time accordingly. Some specific tools that could help you with getting organized are, for example, Microsoft To Do as a very useful and neat software for creating to-do lists and all the other sorts of lists. You can title them any way you want. It has very clear interface and is easy to use and to set as you want. And you can connect it to your PC since it's a Microsoft software. There is a high chance that you already have it installed on your computer or your phone. So why don't you give it a try? Another very famous tool at the moment is Notion. It's like a note-taking app. Generally, it started as a note-taking software. So many students worldwide use it to take their notes and to organize their educational life before a new semester or over the semester. But people also use it to organize all different sets of things. So there you can find templates for project organization, or you can just create it on your own. That's something that really makes this application stand out, that you can frame it any way you want. So basically you can make it a to-do list, you can make it your diary, you can make it your school notebook, whatever you want, and you can also create the interface any way you like. And a good thing is that there are plenty of resources and tutorials online on how to use Notion, and also all different sets of ideas, how you can implement it, like what people use it for. So it can maybe give you some ideas how you could benefit from the software. Other people really don't prefer going all digital or those kind of stuff. And partially I'm like that. I do use Notion and I did use Microsoft To Do, but when I'm really into a stressful situation, I really prefer going completely analog, like taking a notebook or a pen and piece of paper and writing down what's in my head, trying to organize it on the paper. Seems to be much easier than it is to do it in my head. Another advice that is related to student situation is to study with others. Many students claim that when they feel very stressed, they lose motivation somehow. It's maybe not so logical, but after a longer period of time, we do tend to experience certain burnout, certain lack of will and motivation. And that's where studying with others could help you with. Not only that would keep you accountable, but it would help you to get yourself to do it. So if you already scheduled a session with your friends, you're far less likely to actually cancel it and not to study. And there is that psychological trick that when you're doing it with others, you would be comparing yourself to them. So if you see all of them studying, you would feel bad not to do so. And you will start, or you will be just staring at a book, and somehow you will get to go through it. This actually works for the business life as well. If you have a difficult project that you feel really stressed about and that troubles your mind, but you feel very hard to get yourself to do it and to concentrate on it, then if you just share your working space with someone, you don't really have to be working on the same project. It could be your husband or your significant other or your family members, your friends. You could be just sitting in the same space, and while you're together, you will feel more strength and more power to embark on your own tasks. Another advice that I used to hear often is to study in small chunks. For example, to use Pomodoro technique, which actually is a studying technique or working technique in general, where you do 25 minutes of concentrated work, and then you give yourself 5-minute breaks, and then you continue with another 25-minute session. And I think you then complete 4 25-minute sessions, and then you take half an hour break or something like that. I really forgot since I haven't used that method in a while, but many people benefit from it, and there are many timers like just intended for that technique, Pomodoro timers, applications for that. If you have troubles motivating yourself to start, you could definitely make use of it. But another thing that I found in a YouTube video, and it really works for me better than studying in small chunks, is a technique with study blocks. So I was watching it on a YouTube channel of a medical student, and he says that he actually divides his work into 2 4-hour sessions. And why he does it that way? Because if you sit for a longer time in uninterrupted environment, if you do uninterrupted and continuous work, you're far more likely to get into the zone, and you will probably give out better results. This technique is really all about minimizing distractions and staying there for a longer period of time, which I found to be very useful, especially for university students, since the tasks you gotta do are probably larger than for the other students. And maybe for the business world, Pomodoro technique would work better. It really depends on what you do, actually. But the whole idea behind it is that you don't have to get yourself to do something multiple times a day. Using this technique, you would have to make that effort to start only 2 times. You study 4 hours, and then you give yourself 1 hour, 2-hour break, and then you do another session for 4 hours. So you ultimately use less of the willpower. You have to waste less of the willpower to get yourself to do it. And imagine you were just sitting there and trying to study, and whenever your phone beeps, you would be checking it, and then you have to get into the studying or working mode again. So I really love this one. And if you don't want to do it for 4 hours, it could be 2 or 1 hour and a half or 3 hours. Doesn't really matter, but it's just that you cut on the time and cut on the breaks, and that you actually cut on the willpower that you have to invest into getting yourself to do something. Whatever it is that you're going through at the moment, whatever you're dealing with, I hope that this episode would inspire you to think what else you can do for yourself. What are the other things in your life that you can incorporate? Whether it is a new hobby, new skill, new activities, spending more time with friends, family, spending more time studying, getting a part-time gig, whatever it is, try to think what else you can do for yourself, and think about what you do, and think about how you do it, how spend your time, and where there is a room for improvement. Because if you improve the way you're spending your time, if you work on that quality, ultimately you will raise the quality of your future and of your well-being. Thank you for being with us. I hope you had a good time, and I really hope to meet you soon again in the next episode. Bye-bye.